Hello, welcome back to Podium Pop. My name is Gracie. I'm here with my co-host Celine, and we have our second episode of the week here for you guys because we had Formula One and IndyCar this week. So we have already posted our Formula One race recap for the Bahrain Grand Prix, and now we are posting our IndyCar Long Beach race recap. Like, quite a busy weekend we've had here.
Very busy.
Super busy. So we have those two separate episodes out. Make sure you are following us here on Spotify and YouTube. You are liking and subscribing because we've said it before and I'm going to say it again. The majority of the people that are watching this right in this moment are not subscribed or following us. And what's up with that? You're already watching our content, so just go ahead, give us a subscribe. And I think we're ready to get started.
Yes, we are.
All right, let's pop the bottle and get into today's episode for the Long Beach Grand Prix.
Woohoo!
All right.
Qualifying. So one thing about qualifying is there were a lot of bumps and bruises.
Bumps and bruises everywhere.
Flash forward to the race, really nothing.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I think Joseph Newgarden booty bumped the wall. Or no, Willpower. I forget who it was. One of the Penske's booty bumped the wall, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So, qualifying. Again, if you're not familiar with IndyCar qualifying, it is set up to where there is one round and two groups go. So, Group 1 and Group 2. And then the top 6 from each of those groups move on to the top 12. The top 12 go, and then the top 6 of those move on to the Fast 6, which is the last round. And then you take the qualifying order from there. It goes by fastest times. So, Group 1, Round 1, Willpower, booty bump the wall.
Booty bump the wall.
Likely place for him to be. Also, in qualifying, it was a bit of a horror show for the Penske's. Once again, Penske, what is going on? They somehow do a lot of times make up paces in the race.
Yeah,
That's been the case recently. But qualifying for them has not been strong. What's the dealio?
I don't know. What is the dealio? What's happened over winter?
I don't know. Another thing, Pato was in Group 1, Round 1, and the commentators were talking about in the media before. He was feeling very, very unconfident in the car. He seemed very low about it, and very, he was, just the goal was to get to round 2, and that was it. He didn't have expectations to get past that. Which is not a good mindset to have.
Why were Pato and Lando sharing the brain cell this weekend?
Yeah, they need... Well, it got Oscar the win.
Well,
Oscar was using up all the brain cells.
Oscar had all the brain cells, So,
yeah. And then he passed them straight to Christian.
I was going to say, Christian got the brain cell, too.
Guys, we got to spread out those brain cells, McLaren.
I know, McLaren, we really do.
Zach. I wonder how Sam and the other guy did.
You know who got the brain cell first was Alex Doon. In F2.
Oh my gosh.
Alex had that brain cell.
Yeah, and he passed it to Oscar, and Oscar passed it to Christian. Yeah, I need to know about Sam Bird. What's the other guy's name that does Formula E for McLaren?
Taylor Bernard.
I wonder how they did.
Did I get that right?
I don't know.
I think so.
Wow, good job. We don't follow Formula E, so.
We have decided, it's so hard every year, we have decided next year we will be adding Formula E to our roster. Yeah. And who knows, it could be happening this year too.
It could be. It takes a minute. Well could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because last year we added IndyCar. This year we're dabbling in IMSA and, other endurance racing.
I just randomly got into golf because of the Masters, so who knows what we're going to be talking about.
Who knows? Not golf, don't worry guys. I'm not going to let her talk about golf on this podcast. So in Group 1, Round 1, Joseph was pretty frustrated with Felix. At one point, he claimed that he blocked him, which is why he qualified so poorly. The commentators did some investigating. He did kind of block him, but it wasn't close enough to even be considered a block. And second of all, he didn't lose enough time. He still wouldn't have qualified to the next round. So Joseph Newgarden, you got to do. He tried.
Yeah, you tried.
He tried to pull something out.
Yeah.
Colton also booty bumped the wall. He did have some damage, but he didn't technically crash, so he could still continue. Didn't cause a red flag or yellow flag or anything. So he was still able to proceed, and he did have a quick enough time to move on. So even though he did do that, he did have some damage to the car. Luckily, he was in Group 1. If that would have happened in Group 2, he probably wouldn't have been able to fix the car in time for the top 12, but he was able to participate. In Group 2, at first, Robert was looking super quick. Robert Schwartzman for Prema. He did not end up proceeding, but he was looking really strong. And I do think that as of right now, Robert is the leading car for Prema, which is interesting because Callum's the one that has more of IndyCar experience than Robert does.
Mm-hmm.
But Robert, I think, in general, has more racing experience than Callum.
I would say they have about even.
Really, Robert did a lot in like endurance racing.
So did Callum.
Yeah, but I think Robert did it with like a higher team. Like he was with Ferrari. Like,
oh yeah.
I don't know. That's just what I'm picking up. At first, Alex Palou does set the fastest time, not only for that qualifying session, but for the whole weekend.
Crazy.
Not for long, but at first he does do that in Group 2, Round 1. And then near the end, Ferrucci does end up running off, and he bumps the wall, he crashes out, he pulls over, but because of that crash, he's not able to proceed, and his 2 fastest lap times get deleted. And they just end qualifying that session there because it was close enough to the end. So Ferrucci was not able to proceed, and because of that, he qualified pretty low because his 2 fastest lap times were deleted.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move on to the top 12. So top 12 was Christian Nolan, Pat O'David, Marcus Alexander Rossi, Marcus Ericsson, Alex Palou, Felix Rosenquist, Scott McLaughlin, Kyle Kirkwood, Colton Herta, Alex Palou. I think I said that twice. I think I said them twice. But those are the top 12 that move on. So interesting to think about is all 3 Andretti's move to the top 12 and all 3 McLarens move to the top 12, which is, again, you would expect that, don't get me wrong, but the fact that it seems like Penske and Chip Ganassi keep being on the back foot during qualifying, they aren't super strong at qualifying this year. I don't know what it is because that was not the case for last year, especially in the last 2 races. But Andretti has been really consistent, and they have had the top 3 move to the second round of qualifying every race this year. Christian was super fast, but he did crash in the last lap. Again, same situation. He can't move forward. His fastest 2 lap times are deleted as well. And also there was concern because whenever he crashed, he didn't take his hands off the wheel, which we've seen cause a lot of issues. Daniel Ricciardo and Zandvoort, Alexander Rossi last year. But he seemed fine. No one's been talking about it. He did fine during the race. So I think he's okay, but there's definitely some concern there. And Kyle was the fastest in not Q2. Well, it's basically Q2 in the second round of qualifying. And then the top 5 there were Kyle, Colton, Alex, Marcus Ericsson, and Scotty Mack.
Those Andretti's,
man, they're really quick. And I think that Kyle being, I feel like more consistently it's Colton being the quickest Andretti. But Kyle's just had an amazing weekend.
He's had an amazing weekend. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So in the top 6, it was pretty standard. Nothing like no crashes or anything. I will say that when I was watching, I was rooting for Kyle. It took Kyle really long to even get a lap time on the board. He was the last one to set a lap time in the Fast 6. And I was a little nervous. I was stressing out. Did you watch?
I listened on IndyCar radio.
Okay, so that was a nice plug.
Oh, yeah.
IndyCar radio.
On the IndyCar app, if you can't watch, you can listen on the radio. And that's what I did. I hooked it up to my speakers. It was great.
Yeah. So it was a very stressful time. Kyle ended up getting the fastest lap, and then he had provisional pole. And then there were a couple more people that had to finish out their laps, including Marcus Ericsson being one of them. People thought that he was possibly going to get it. He did not. So, final quali order. Are you ready?
Ready.
Kyle Kirkwood, pole position. Last time he had pole position was in Nashville, which we did attend.
It's where the Kirk girls were born.
It is where the Kirk girls were born, in Nashville. In second was Colton Herta, so an Andretti front row lockout. Great. Alex Palou in third. He's inevitable.
He is literally inevitable.
Felix Rosenquist qualifying in fourth. Again, Meyer Shank is looking super quick this year. They are up there with the Andretti's. They're up there with the Chip Ganassis. Consistently. It's not, that first race that we had in St. Pete during qualifying, they did fantastic, out of the gate. And I was I don't know, maybe it's the track, maybe it's the first, I don't know, it's a fluke. No, they have been consistent and they've been awesome. In fifth is Marcus Ericsson, so that is all 3 Andretti's in the top 5, which is fantastic. They did interview Marcus Ericsson after qualifying, and they're like, are you so excited? He's like, well, yeah, but it sucks that, like, my teammates are up there and I'm in 5th. Like, it feels kind of shitty.
Yeah.
He didn't say those words. I added that. But
you're ad-libbing for Marcus Ericsson.
I'm ad-libbing. Sorry, I'm putting words in Marcus Ericsson's mouth.
Marcus Ericsson improv.
No, literally. In 6th was Scotty Mack. He is the highest qualifying Penske by far. In 7th is Marcus Armstrong. Again, both of the Meyer-Shank cars being in the top 7 is fantastic. If you would have told them that last year or even the year before, they would have been super happy with that. In 8th, Alexander Rossi. Again, he is another one like Meyer-Shank that has come in this year with so much confidence that he is impressing me. Him being in an Ed Carpenter racing car and being able to consistently qualify in the top 10 is, I think, just amazing. And again, compared to where the results were for them last year, I think they would be super happy with that. In 9th, Pato O'Ward, he was lacking confidence. He did make it to the 2nd round, but it's still not where he wants to be. It's not where he usually is. He is just struggling a bit this year, and I don't know why.
I don't know either.
In 10th, David Malukas, a good qualifying for him. In 11th, Nolan Siegel. We have our eyes on Nolan Siegel. He's obviously in the cursed car for McLaren. And while he qualified really well for where he was at the last couple of races, he did not stay there. And, I'm just praying for my little boy, Nolan.
Yeah.
I'm praying for him. And 12th was Christian Lundgaard, which is interesting. He does end up making quite a bit of those places up during the race. And then we have the next Penske qualifying in 13th, Will Power. 14th, Scott Dixon, again, qualified much lower than he was anticipating and that he was expecting. Probably was not very happy with that. 15th, Joseph Newgarden. 16th, we got the first RLL car, Graham Rahal. 17th, Kiffin Simpson, another Chip Ganassi. And then 18th, Christian Rasmussen. We have 19th, Stingray Robb. 20, Louis Foster, the first rookie, highest qualifying rookie on there. 21st, Connor Daly. 22nd, Callum Ilott. 23, Devlin DeFrancesco. 24th, Robert Schwartzman. 25th, Rinus VK. 26th, Santino Ferrucci. He was down there again. He had that crash. And 27th, Jacob Abel.
I feel like it was kind of a quiet weekend for the rookies.
It was a quiet weekend for the IndyCar rookies. I feel like, Louis Foster, because it's Louis, Robert, and Jacob, right? Those are the 3 rookies. Robert made some waves. He did really good during the race a little bit. He was, he was up there just because of pit strategy, but he was up there in the top 5 for some time. And he also had a really strong beginning of qualifying. Again, he just kind of fell off. He wasn't able to keep up with the pack. He was able to set a really fast initial lap, but once the track warmed up and people were making faster times, he just wasn't able to keep up with it. So, yeah, I'm waiting. All of the rookies are in not the greatest cars.
Yeah.
We actually were having a discussion on what would happen if, Cadillac were to take Colton Herta and who would Andretti put in that seat. Same we were talking about like with McLaren, who would replace Pato. And we did, toss from the name Louis Foster. He obviously did fantastic in Indy Next. So it would be really interesting to see what he could do in an Andretti versus what he's doing in his current car.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anything else to add for qualifying?
No.
Okay, great. Let's go to the race.
All right. Race.
So, lap 1, we're just going to get right on into it.
Yeah.
Lap 1, Kyle did hold on to the lead, and Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon were in a super close battle. I'm talking like I was biting my nails on the edge of my seat. Oh my God, I thought they were going to crash. Which, to take out Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon from a race, like if they took each other out, it would have crazy impacts on the final standings because they're so strong and they are both competitors for the championship. So that would have been crazy.
So on lap 2, we see Joseph Newgarden pit. And for a lot of people, if you're coming over from F1 and like just now watching IndyCar, you're like, why are they pitting on lap 2? Like that, what do you mean? We don't see that. With these IndyCars, for their tires, they have to use the tires for at least 2 laps. So Joseph used his soft tires for 2 laps, immediately pit and came back out just to get it out of the way.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to deal with this later in the race. Let me get this over with.
Yeah, nobody else did that. So he was just like playing with his strategy to see, since no one else was seemingly doing that and then didn't do it during the race, they were going to see how it played out for him.
Yeah, so Joseph did it immediately. Like, he did, like, 2 laps and then gone. The biggest thing with Long Beach is that, like, clean air is super important. I mean, the commentators, James Hinchcliffe himself, said many times, like, he's won, many times in IndyCar, and he's like, in Long Beach, from my experience, it is a huge difference having clean air versus dirty air. I think most street courses are like that. But it is super important in this particular race. In lap 5, we see more people pitting and going on to the hard tires, a lot of them that started on softs as well. So they still kept it very short, but they did take it a little bit further than Joseph Newgarden. So 2 of those near the front that pit in lap 5 include Colton and Scotty. And on the way out, they had a huge battle in the pit lane. Which, again,
they were so close.
It was so scary. So you're able to be side by side in the pit lane, but it does narrow out, and it eventually has to go down to 1 lane. So Colton did get in front of Scotty at that moment. But another thing at the end of the pit lane, which was similar to thermal, is that you come out right at a curve, at a turn. And in thermal, it was almost to an advantage because the cars were going slow enough that the people coming out of the pit lane that was long enough almost had a more advantage than the people on the track. But it switched for this one where people coming off of the pit lane, it's so hard to warm up your tires that you have cold tires, you have a full tank of fuel. It is, even if you're in front of the person, say that Gracie was coming around the corner and I'm coming out of the pit lane, even if I was in front of her, it's impossible to hold it not impossible because Kyle did it. Yeah. But it's much harder to hold the position because they have warmer tires, they have less fuel, they have that momentum going. So that always makes things difficult as well. But there were a lot of close calls at the pit lanes
there were.
Today. Okay, well, what else? What else happened at the beginning? We had a really close battle between Scotty, Colton, Joseph, and Marcus Ericsson. They were, again, really close. We had Kyle keeping the lead even after he kept the lead, but it did narrow it down. It made it a lot closer. Alex Palou was pretty much behind Kyle consistently the whole race. There were some differences with their pit strategy. For the most part, they were stuck together. At the end of lap 10, our first commercial break, we had an order of Christian Lundgaard, Scott Dixon, and Kiffin Simpson, and that is because they were on different pit strategies. They were on the hard tires to start. What do they call them?
They were saying hards this time.
Were they?
Yeah, the commentators were.
Oh, okay.
Instead of reds and blacks.
Okay,
I did think about that while the race was happening.
Yeah, so they normally call them different things, but for Formula One fans, yes, they're hard tires. So that because they started out on the hard tires, they were leading, and they led for a while. It took them a while to eventually start pitting. But Christian was able to actually build a pretty big lap, or pretty big gap, that they were speculating that even if he were to pit once he gets to that pit cycle, there's a chance that he built enough of a gap up to still keep the lead in front of Kyle. That didn't happen, but it was close.
It was close. You know what I'm thinking? I wonder if Will coming over from F1 kind of was like, it's going to make more sense if we call them soft, medium, hard instead of the red and black.
Yeah.
Because I remember last year being like, sticker red. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, another thing is during qualifying, like, they've never done this before, but the commentators were using Q1, Q2, Q3, like, as reference.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
I had with IndyCar Radio different commentators, so I didn't have Will, T-Bell, and Hinch.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
because I think they're through Fox.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how they're able to, like, kind of change those. And I do think that because IndyCar fans know those terms, but Formula One fans getting into IndyCar don't know the terms like red and black, or like.
I also think like someone coming in who hasn't watched any motorsport, like a soft tire, medium tire, hard tire makes sense.
Yeah, that's
like
so
it's a little
true.
more easy to pick up than colors. Like, what are the colors mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. That is true.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another commercial break at lap 25, and it is Christian, Scott. I didn't write down which Scott though.
The world may never know.
The world may never know. And then Kiffin. It was a long race, guys. There was no safety car, no yellow flag, nothing. So it was a pretty long race to keep up with. In lap 28, we had Christian go to the pit. That was his first pit stop, and he was the first one to pit that started on hard tires. So it was like that pit cycle started then. And then, it was Scott Dixon because I put Dixon. Dixon and Kiffin Simpson followed him into the pit, and they all ended up going on softs, which, again, they did the thing where it's only a temporary thing. They wanted to get the requirement out of the way, does Formula One have that requirement where they have to have them for a certain, I know they have the requirement where you have to use at least 2 different tire compounds, but do they have what's stopping them from putting on a soft tire doing 1 lap? Do they have to do 2 laps as well?
Not that I know of. I know it's just a tire. Because even 2 years ago in 2023 in Qatar, when they made you use multiple tires, they did it by lap. Well, they did it by lap. You had to do 3 pit stops within 18 laps. The fact that I randomly remember that's kind of insane.
That is crazy.
But that's the only time I can remember it being lap. And I guess for that it was only lap because you had to have 3. And never mind.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. By lap 45, all of the drivers have completed their tire requirements. So they've all gotten the soft tire out of the way. They've all been on the hard tire. At that point, the tire strategy that they were going with is all based on actual race. And for the most part, they were putting on the hard tires because the soft tires didn't do much on this track because it's a street course, tire degradation. It doesn't make sense. Everyone was trying to get that out of the way. So Joseph was going strong. He had a really slow pit stop at lap 63.
Yeah.
But he was waving to his mechanic. You see one of his mechanics jump on his car.
In the car.
Go down to his elbow, digging around.
Doing surgery in there.
I don't know what he did. They were saying that there's something with the seatbelt.
Yeah, I think the commentators were speculating.
But what I think happened, and I don't know this for sure, but what I think happened is he had a really slow pit stop, something with his seatbelt. He goes out. I don't know if he pits again or if he just had that slow of a pit stop that he was already so far behind. And then a couple of laps later, he scrapes the wall. It was him that booty bumped the wall.
Poor guy.
So Joseph was struggling this race all around. In lap 64, a lot of the last pits start. Kyle did his last pit stop of the race. And then from then on out, it was really just kind of focusing on push to pass, fuel saving. And Kyle's goal was just to keep Alex Palou behind him, which was hard. We talked earlier about how it was really difficult when you're coming out of the pit lane to not be overtaken by the people behind you because of the cold tires and all of that. So at one point, Kyle, in his last pit stop, does leave the pit lane. Alex Palou behind him. But Alex Palou is right on his ass.
So close.
And the commentators are like, he's going to catch him. He's going to catch him. And Kyle drives flawlessly.
Fantastic.
It was so good. He ended up keeping the lead. Luckily, they didn't run into too much traffic during this. Otherwise, that probably would have caused a huge amount of issues.
Yeah.
So we got lucky on that part. But Kyle he did fantastic. He kept Alex Palou, and it's not easy to keep Alex Palou behind you.
No.
But he kept Alex Palou behind him the rest of the race and ended up winning.
That's so exciting.
It is so exciting.
He didn't have a single win last year.
I know.
So,
it's been a while.
It has to feel so good.
It felt good to me.
No, it felt great to me.
In the last couple of laps, Christian Lundgaard does overtake Felix. And it was all with how much push to pass. Kyle had so much push to pass, and his engineer was literally like, use it. And he's like, no, I got to save it just in case. I got to save it. So there was another point where Willpower, Scotty Mack, and Colton were kind of fighting quite a bit, especially Scotty and Colton for P6. And Colton did have the advantage having more push to pass. Same with Scott Dixon, who was behind Colton, had a lot of push to pass left. They weren't able to catch up to Scotty Mack during that, but that was also a couple close battles in the last couple of laps.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to read off the final results of the top 10 and we go from there?
Yeah.
Okay. So, number 1, Kyle won. Woo! Second, Alex Palou. Third, Christian Lundgaard, which top Arrow Mclaren there, which he's doing fantastic.
Doing so good.
Fourth is Felix. 5th is Will Power. Again, he kind of popped up out of nowhere. We talked about that when we were watching. We're like, where does he come from? He always qualifies, not like low, but he doesn't qualify super strong in the last couple of races and ends up like near the top every time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not surprising. He's a fantastic race car driver. I mean, Scotty Mac too, like the Penske was looking so dim at the beginning of the weekend, and here we have 2 Penske's in the top 6. That's why you can't trust them.
No.
Can't trust those Penske's.
Never have, never will.
7, Colton Herta. I think he could have gotten higher up, but he did end up, something with his suspension on one of the sides is really unbalanced. Whenever he was turning one way, it was turning too easily, and he was turning another way, it was turning not easily. So that kind of messed that up a little bit. I think he could have been higher if he had a fully functioning car. In 8th, Scott Dixon. 9th, Stingray Robb. What? Fantastic. I mean,
great.
For that team, they needed it.
Yeah, they did need that.
And 10th, Kiffin Simpson.
Also kind of like a what?
Also kind of like a what? That they are not typically seen in the top 10.
No.
So for both of them to be in the top 10 in Long Beach, which is their 50th year of racing at Long Beach, I think that's got to be pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
Santino Ferrucci was in 11th. He also worked his way up quite a bit from the back of the grid. So all in all, there were just some shocks on here. And now there was so many racers that didn't really make an impact at all. We talked a little bit about the rookies being really under the radar. Connor Daly wasn't talked about. Devlin DeFrancesco wasn't really talked about. We didn't hear much
Pato
from.
Was barely talked about.
Yeah, I mean Nolan Siegel, he ended up in 20th again. He qualified really well, but when you compare his, which in this case it wasn't bad because Pato was in 13th, but when you compare him versus Christian Lundgaard, who's in 3rd, and it's kind of consistent across the board that he's that far behind the other Arrow Mclarens, along with the fact that he has more experience with Arrow Mclaren than Christian Lundgaard does cause some concern.
Just shows how good of a driver Christian is.
That's
more
true.
Than against Nolan.
Yeah, but I mean, how long is McLaren going to put up with that, though? I mean, I think they almost are leaning into it even more because they don't want to continue having that reputation.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So maybe they're going to purposely not do anything because they don't want that.
I also feel like TK loves that kid.
TK does love him. Yeah. And he does have so much potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was, he literally podiumed Le Mans.
He won Le Mans.
Oh, he did win Le Mans, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he, people spend their whole lives, careers trying to win
literally.
Le Mans. He was like, I guess I'll do Le Mans. Oh, I won. Okay.
It was after that silly TikTok. That was the whole reason they won.
No, and I love that.
It's such a great TikTok.
But that did cause some changes to the driver championship. So just looking at the top 5, Alex Palou is still leading, but Kyle did pop up to 2nd.
Yeah, that's great.
Super exciting. And then in 3rd is Christian Lundgaard. 4th is Felix, and 5th is Scott Dixon. What are your thoughts?
I just want to talk about Christian Lundgaard.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
Fantastic. He's doing so good. And we talked about this this week, how sometimes you'll be watching a race and then all of a sudden you're watching and you're looking for a driver that you haven't previously been looking for.
Yeah.
And at the end of last year, I was like, oh, I'm keeping my eye on Christian Lundgaard. And the whole time this race, I was like, what's Christian doing?
Where's he
Christian?
At? Yeah.
Me personally, he's climbing those ranks in favorite driver wise, but also just once again, for this being his first year here, he's in P3, P4 for the constructors or drivers. Sorry,
P3.
Yeah, P3. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I think because we were talking about because I was saying how I feel about that, Meyer Shank. I kept looking for Felix. I kept looking for Marcus Armstrong. Their names, and so it is interesting. It feels like they sneak up on you, and then you don't realize it, but you're like, oh, where is this person? And it happens enough time that you're like, do I love them?
Yeah.
Am I part of the fans now?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, Christian Lundgaard, he has, again, he's so young in his career and he has so much potential. But for him to be performing and outperforming Pato and Nolan, who, again, both have more experience at Arrow Mclaren than he does.
Yeah.
Especially Pato, the fact that he's outperforming him. Pato is a big name in IndyCar. He's one of the names thrown around. He had his whole, Fox commercial.
Yeah.
So for him to be able to compete with the same machinery, I think says a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any podium or champagne pops and champagne problems for the race?
Well, my champagne pop was going to go to Christian.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Who's yours?
I'm going to give my champagne pop to Kyle.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think he drove almost perfect, almost flawlessly. And again, that last couple of laps of keeping Alex behind him right out of the pits, I think was terrifying, but it was so good. It really showed how great of a driver he is.
Great racecraft, for sure. Do you have a champagne problem?
I think I'm going to give my champagne problem to Joseph Newgarden.
I was going to give mine to Joseph as well.
It would have gone to Penske in general if you would have asked me after qualifying.
Yeah.
But after the race, I think I'm just sticking with Joseph Newgarden. He tried out a strategy. It already wasn't doing great. Yeah. And then, of course, he had the issue with the long pit stop, something with his seatbelt. He booty bumped the wall. Like, he couldn't catch a break this weekend.
No, he really couldn't.
And I think I can tell he's getting really frustrated. He's not the type of guy that is used to being near the back of the grid, and he's definitely not okay with it. So I do wonder how long it's going to take for him to get things in order. I mean, like, the Indy 500 is going to be here before we know it. It's only a couple of races away.
Yeah.
And yeah, because we have Barber, and then we have Indy Road Course, and then we have the Indy 500, right? Yeah. So for it to be so soon, and he's supposed to be trying to get his third Indy 500 win. And if it's continuing like it is now, that's not looking very likely.
I know.
Well, let's do a check-in right now. Who are you anticipating to win the Indy 500? If you had to take a guess now.
It feels like a cop-out to say Alex Palou, but
right.
Alex Palou.
That's true. I would say Alex Palou as well. He doesn't do fantastic on ovals, though. So that's something to consider. But we also haven't had an oval yet.
I know.
Indy 500 is the first oval of the season, so I don't know. I'm thinking I'm going to throw something wild out there, and I'm going to say Christian Lundgaard could be competing for the Indy 500.
I really think he
could. And
could.
how special would that be to literally, being so young in your career to win the Indy 500?
I'll cry.
I would sob.
I will be crying.
So I think he has a real chance of it. Obviously, Alex Palou is fantastic, but again, we know that he's much stronger on the street courses and all of that rather than ovals. Not to say that he's not great on ovals too. But I do think Christian Lundgaard could be a contender there.
I think so too.
Now, I don't know how Christian typically does on ovals either, though. So that's something to note. I mean, because you could look at his results from last year, but then again, he also was so young last year. He was a rookie. He was a rookie last year, right? Or was it the year before? Is it his second year?
He wasn't a rookie last year.
Okay, so it must have been 2 years ago that he was a rookie, but still really young. I mean, and then also we could have people that we know are good at ovals. Joseph Newgarden could come out of nowhere and do it, or one of the other Penske's. Scotty Mack it's about time he wins the Indy 500. So,
gosh, qualifying for the Indy 500 makes me so nervous.
Yeah, because it feels
terrifying.
And also the Indy 500 is one of those things that there's so much lead up, and one thing can happen, and you're done.
Yeah.
All of that time, okay, let's try again next year kind of situation.
Where one thing can happen and you're crashing out, and the next you're qualifying in the top 12, like Rinus VeeKay.
No, literally.
It could genuinely go any way.
Yeah, because they do qualifying the week before, right?
2 weeks before, and then that full week leading up to the practice. Because it's always around my birthday weekend.
So it goes Indy Road Course, and then it goes qualifying, and then it goes
just a full practice weekend. Full practice weekend. They practice for 4 or 5 days.
And then it's the Indy 500, and then we have that wedding.
Yes.
So we have Miami, and then we have first week of May, and then we have that feels like too many weeks of May. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Miami's a 5-week.
5-week weekend.
Mm-hmm.
5-month weekend.
5-week month.
5 weekend month. Let me have this.
Whatever.
Miami, Indy Road Course, Indy qualifying.
Yeah, my birthday.
Indy practice week, Indy 500, wedding week.
Yeah.
Neither of us are getting married, by the way. We're just attending one. That's a busy month for us.
My May is so busy, nobody talked to me in June.
Yeah.
Nobody talked to me in June.
June, I might be going to the Mid-Ohio IMSA race.
I'm going to leave you to
Ah!
that.
Excited. I might be camping. We'll see how it goes.
I, A, don't camp, and B, haven't caught on to the IMSA wave yet. Well, I like it, but not as much as you, I would say.
I do love IMSA, but this is the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
I couldn't even tell you the difference between.
I'm still figuring it out too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm showing up and I'm gonna be like, my plan is to like do research leading up to the Michelin Pilot Challenge to figure out who I'm gonna be supporting, and then go from there.
Okay, perfect.
So, but anyways, a great race.
Great race.
Next is Barber. Barber does happen the same week as Miami, so if we do a Barber episode,
let's be honest, we probably
will not. Because already it's going to be so tough for us to get the Miami episode up because we're going to get home from Miami on Monday night.
Yeah.
Be exhausted. Maybe try to get it up Wednesday morning. Maybe film Tuesday, get it up Wednesday morning. But that already is going to be a struggle. And between that, when are we going to find time to even watch Barber, much less film an episode about it?
Or like to digest it.
Because and it's also like difficult because like Barber is like, it's not like where it was with like when we were in Nashville and we were watching the what was it? Where were they? Baku. Because it was a different time zone, we could watch it in the morning. Like
we watched it at like 5 a.m.
Barber's gonna be going on the same time that Miami's going on. So like it's impossible for us to watch. So I'll probably try to keep up with the standings and like the qualifying and everything. But I wouldn't hold your breath for an episode.
We will be with MJ, and MJ loves IndyCar, so
maybe we do some spontaneous like TikTok updates there.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
We'll see. But if you haven't already, make sure you go listen to our Formula One episode that came out yesterday, surrounding the Bahrain Grand Prix. It was a great weekend for Podium.
No, it was a great weekend for us.
Because not only did Oscar and Kyle get pole, Oscar and Kyle converted those poles into wins.
Yeah.
And that is so special. We could have asked for a better result. Maybe Lando getting second instead of third, and maybe, I don't know, Colton getting second. I would have been happy with that. Yeah. I don't know. I think I have to take this as a win.
What did we do this weekend that was so special?
I don't know, but we have to recreate it.
I know, I'm a little superstitious.
What did I do? I didn't really do much this weekend.
I couldn't tell you what I did.
Maybe we need to chill out. Maybe we need to do less.
Maybe we need to stay home.
Yeah, we should stay home more often.
Yeah, actually, we really probably should.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to see if Kyle can continue, with this streak. He obviously won, but he's done good the last couple of races as well. So if he can keep this up,
it's going to be a good year for Kyle.
It's going to be a good year. It's going to be, I don't know, maybe it's his year.
Follow him to Chili's.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know how much Chili's I would eat if Kyle Kirkwood won the Drivers' Championship.
You would have to advertise your tattoo.
Yeah. I don't know if I could.
Do they know about that?
I don't think so. And we're not going to talk about it.
Sorry.
It'll be fine.
Cool.
But thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
See you next week.
Bye.